Pluto moving into Aquarius, November 19th, 2024. Advances in technology developing at an exponential pace, realizing ourselves as galactic citizens. Revolution. Hello, my name is Eliane Nicole. I'm your astrologer and tarot reader. And in this video, I am going to talk about the enormously significant transit of Pluto, god of the underworld, moving into the sign of Aquarius for the next 2 decades, beginning November 19th, 2024, taking us all the way to 2044. But first, I want to say, if you're watching this video on my Instagram, I'm only going to post the first 5 minutes here. The entire video will be available on my YouTube channel, Eliane Nicole. My YouTube channel is my name, Eliane Nicole. Please find me there. I will put a link in the profile bio of my Instagram to get there. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Please hit the notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Please like, please comment, please share. It helps me grow my business, it helps me grow my community, it helps me grow my channel, it helps me in the algorithm, and it puts me in a position to continue to give these free astrological offerings. If you're watching this on Instagram, please make sure that you're following astrology.tarot.eliane Nicole. Please like, please comment, please share. Help me out in the algorithm, guys. It's free for you and very helpful to me. And now, without further ado, I'm going to get into my interpretation of this very lofty and vast topic of Pluto moving into Aquarius. And let me just say, this is going to be a part 1 video in many ways. I will be talking about Pluto and Aquarius a lot throughout the years as this transit unfolds. Again, it's here to stay for 2 decades. And humanity and our experience on the planet is going to completely transform. We are on the precipice of an almost unfathomable transformation. And so I want to scratch the surface here in this video. If you want to get into it with me deeper, definitely contact me for a reading, because we can look at where it goes through your chart personally and what aspects it's making to your personal planets. Because in general, Pluto is one of the collective signs. It's not a personal planet. Whole generations are born with Pluto in the same sign. And so a lot of times where Pluto is in our birth charts has to do with how we're connected to the generation that we're born in, you know, the Xers, the millennials, the Zers, the boomers. Like, a lot of times that has to do with our Pluto sign. However, Pluto does become a personal planet to you if it's in direct aspect to your sun, moon, your ascendant, or any of your personal planets, your Venus, your Mars, your Jupiter, your Saturn. If it's in any of the angles, like by your midheaven or descendant, in these positions in a person's chart, it becomes a very personal planet, and their life story is often colored by Plutonian themes and experiences. But otherwise, it's more of like, again, a collective transit, and but there can be times in life where you undergo a Pluto transit and it becomes personal for like a phase or a period. Pluto is so slow moving, it takes 248 years to circle the sun. So when we do go through a Pluto transit, it's usually like a 3-year transit. It's a very slow moving transformational process that usually feels like, you know, a death and a rebirth in some area of our lives, where we come out on the other side completely transformed in our identity, or how we see the world, or how the world sees us. So Pluto is a deep guy, you know, god of the underworld, Hades. The underworld has so much to do with what lives beneath the surface, what lives in the shadows, what lives in the unseen. And when it comes up to be dealt with, it can be quite confrontational because it's been buried, it's been repressed or suppressed. And so, you know, Pluto transits aren't necessarily considered easy, but they are a necessary part of the evolution of our soul's journey. And, you know, Pluto in our chart can often indicate things that we've experienced in past lives, as well as what pulled our soul down into the current incarnation in this life. So Pluto, there's just so much depth there. And, you know, in general, during Pluto transits, Pluto is said to make big things small and small things big. You know, Pluto rules things like just, you know, secrets, the unseen, you know. But, you know, let me get into the overview and the topics I want to talk about. First of all, we have gotten a hint of Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto was in Aquarius for a brief period from March 2023 to June 2023. So if you look back during that time in your life, you can see that Pluto introduced us to some of the themes and topics that are going to be the most significant topics in our lives over this 20-year arc when he permanently moves into, or semi-permanently, 20-year permanently turns, moves into Aquarius. And then he also was there from January 2024 till September 2024. So we've had some sneak peeks at what Pluto in Aquarius means. You know, Aquarius is the sign about humanitarian ideals. Aquarius is about progress. It's about futurism. Aquarius is about what's good for the collective, what's good for the group, what's good for the whole. Aquarius is about technology and innovation and thinking out of the box. Aquarius is about the outsiders versus the insiders. Aquarius is an air sign. It's a very mental sign. It's about the higher mind. Aquarius is the sign often associated with genius, but it's also the sign that, you know, is, what's the saying? There's a fine line between genius and insanity. So it's a sign that deals with mental health issues as well. Aquarius deals with space and the atmosphere. Aquarius is the air yang temple of Saturn, so it can have to do with the structures. It's you know, but it's different than Capricorn, which we're coming out of a Pluto and Capricorn era, and Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. But in Capricorn, Saturn is concerned with preserving old structures and tradition but in Aquarius, it's the future structures, building the future structures. And so you see that as we got to the end of Capricorn, the old structures begin to crumble to make room for the new systems and structures that are going to come to be in a more Aquarian model, which is futuristic for the times that we're living in. And yeah, and I just want to say again, I don't script my videos. I don't read a teleprompter. I study the astrology, and then I do these videos as a reading, like off the cuff. So please bear with me. Because of that, sometimes I leave out things that I meant to say, but I always trust that, you know, God and the universe is transmitting through me to you what's most important for you who are listening to hear at this time that you're listening to this video. But yeah, as Pluto enters Aquarius, I also want to say that at the end of 2020, on December 21st, 2020, Jupiter and Saturn met at 0 degrees Aquarius. And if you look back at that point, we were coming out of the year of the pandemic, and we were very in touch with our higher mind at that point after having gone what we went through as a collective. I think we had more of a sense at that time than ever in our lives how connected we all are as an organism. Since then, life has gotten back to its normal pace and speed, and we may have been removed and forgotten about that. But think of where you were mentally at the end of that year and what you were thinking about and the seeds that you were wanting to plant for your life going forward. These themes are going to be coming to realization now as we head into this Pluto and Aquarius era for the next 2 decades. And again, Pluto is so slow moving, and so the changes don't happen overnight. This is a very slow transformational process, and it's a great time to get to know the Aquarius part of your chart. If you don't know where Aquarius is in your chart, definitely contact me for a reading, and we can look at where Pluto is going to be moving in your chart over the next 20 years. And this Pluto transit becomes even more significant when we look at the fact that both Neptune and Uranus, the 2 other outer planets who are very slow moving and define generations, together with Pluto, Neptune and Uranus, they create the landscape within which everything else is happening in our lives. It's the background landscape. So it's so important because even though it's not personal about our personal lives, because we exist within it, of course it colors our personal lives. And they're all switching signs, and we're moving from this earth and water time where they were all in earth and water signs to fire and air. So the pace is going to pick up even more than it already has. Believe it or not, things are going to start moving really, really quickly. And that's why we need to be light. We need to be able to fly. It's not as much about accumulating stuff and things. It's much more minimalistic and living light and being able to move and fly. What else do I want to say? In the introduction, I talked about advances in technology developing at an exponential pace, realizing ourselves as galactic citizens. That was already being introduced by the government a week before Pluto officially made his move. There was a hearing about UFOs, and they're just kind of rolling that out. But we are not alone here, and that will become mainstream knowledge during the Pluto in Aquarius era. And again, this video is a starting point. I just want to touch on topics. I'm not going to go deep into them. As transits unfold over time, I will get deeper into the topics. So stay tuned to my channel, because we will be getting to know Pluto and Aquarius together very well over time. When I talked about the revolution, one of the things that astrologers do to understand how a transit is going to unfold is look back at times at how it's unfolded during history. And Pluto in Aquarius is definitely associated with revolutions. The Civil War happened in America during a Pluto and Aquarius era. The French Revolution happened during a Pluto and Aquarius era. The slave revolt in Haiti happened under a Pluto and Aquarius era. And so we are going to see these moments coming full circle during this Pluto and Aquarius era. It's time to revisit how far we've come since those pivotal moments in history and how we're moving to the next level. And so Mark Twain has a famous quote that, and I may be slightly butchering it, but it's something to the effect of history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. Well, we're going to be seeing the rhymes of these previous Pluto and Aquarius times. So there is that aspect of technology developing at an exponentially rapid pace. This is going to affect every single element of the culture, and from how we communicate, our communications, our travel, air travel, car travel, space travel, medicine, you know, aging, regenerative medicine, you know, frequency healing, you know, banking, education, you know, sex, marriage, literally every single aspect of the culture is going to shift. And we're on the precipice of that happening at 0 degrees Aquarius. You know, I pulled out the Fool card from my Dolly deck, and the Fool is 0 in the tarot, and it has to do so much with, amongst other things, standing on the point of all possibility. And that's really where we are in this Aquarian era. You know, Aquarius is a sign about our consciousness, and our consciousness is what creates our reality. And that's why I think it's so important to be entering this era with awareness, because you know, the glyph of Aquarius is those 2 squiggly lines, and I think that there's going to be those that are just easily programmed in this era, and those who are co-creating with the energies at work, who have awareness of the power of their mind. What else do I want to say? Yes, in our personal charts, I'm bouncing back and forth, but I forgot to say this, is Pluto represents our seed self. So it's a seed that's planted within us, it's inside of us when we're born, but it often takes throughout a lifetime before it develops and grows into a tree. And so a lot of times that seed self is not recognized because it's so internal, it's so in a dark hidden place within us. And then, you know, maybe in our 40s or our 50s, it depends at different times for different people, depending on how life unfolds and when people are willing to do their shadow work and how self-aware people are. But it blossoms and it grows. And so anyway, that's something that we can look at if we ever do a personal chart reading. But for the collective, when Pluto moves into a new sign, we do have to face the shadow topics of that sign. Pluto transforms by demolishing and then rebuilding. It's about death and rebirth. You don't just get to the rebirth and the regeneration without the death. Pluto makes us face our shadow. Pluto makes us face our biggest fears, our grief, our insecurities, you know, all of the darker emotions Pluto makes us come face to face with and like admit to ourselves and have to confront. So when we're talking about having to face the shadow sides of the Aquarian energy, we're talking about facing the shadow sides of technology, like how technology can be used for evil, how technology can work against us. You know, when I think of Pluto and Aquarius, I think about surveillance. I think about how, you know, I mean, this has been developing for some time, but it's like once the Pluto and Aquarius era enters, we're already there. It's like basically we're always on camera wherever we are, as soon as we step off of our front doorstep, and sometimes even within our own homes. You know, we're at the time where, you know, just everyday citizens have surveillance technology at their disposal, you know, and so, you know, that's one of the shadow sides of Aquarius. You know, another shadow side of Pluto and Aquarius is, you know, just how dependent we are on technology and the internet. At some point in the Pluto and Aquarius phase, we're going to see the equivalent of what the pandemic was happen in the internet and computers, where there has to be a complete shutdown because a virus is spreading. And then we'll have to go back to the ways of living back in the 70s before computers for a period until it's rectified or corrected. But, you know, we're going to have to face things like that. And what does that mean to how entangled our lives, every aspect of our lives, has come to living online and depending on the internet and the computer. And again, I'm doing the broad overviews. I will look at specific timing on these things as time unfolds and I go through the transits as they're approaching. But right now I'm doing the broad strokes. You know, the Pluto and Aquarius era is the era of robots and AI, and, you know, we're looking at reaching the post-human era. I mean, I believe that during the Pluto and Aquarius era, we're going to see, you know, robots becoming more like humans, humans becoming more like robots. In some cases, I think as we reach the post-human era, you know, we're going to see people becoming a mixture of human and robot, and this possibly making immortality possible, you know, you know, and what does that mean for life on the planet? You know, Pluto has so much to do with power, and ultimately I do believe that Pluto in Aquarius is about power to the people, but that doesn't come handed to us on a silver platter, leaving the Pluto in Capricorn era that was so much about top-down authority and authoritarianism and things like that. So we're coming in with that, you know, Capricorn shadow fully realized, and it needing to be demolished in the beginning of the Aquarian, Pluto and Aquarius era, before we rebuild to power to the people, to more progressive politics. So this is all part of the storyline of Pluto and Aquarius. And yeah, when Pluto first enters the sign, there's often a crisis dealing with the symbolism that that sign is associated with. And another shadow side of Aquarius is that it's so mental that it can get removed from emotion and feeling. It can get so intellectual that it loses the, you know, the soulfulness, or the emotional intelligence can be overshadowed by the intellectual intelligence. And so these are things that we're going to be, you know, experiencing the shadow side of, and needing to integrate and work with and transform so that it doesn't overtake us in a bad way. Aquarius can become very cold and detached. I think, you know, there's so much I can talk about, because there's also the astrology of nations, and, you know, nations that have very strong Aquarius in their chart, such as Russia and China. And I could, you know, do a whole video on that, and maybe I will later. I don't want this video to get too long. I'm already at 22 minutes, and so I want to make sure and touch on the broad overview. You guys can put to me in comments areas that you want me to do videos on in more detail, and I would be happy to if I know what you guys want to see. Yeah, I mean, with the rapid advances in technology that we're going to see, I mean, astrologically speaking, the years of 2023 to 2030, so the 7-year period from 23 to 2030, looks like the advances in technology are as rapid in that 7 years as we've seen from like the 1970s until now, but condensed into a 7-year space as opposed to over 50 years time. So that's how rapid it's going to be, like a dizzying speed of advancement that we're seeing. And as that's going to be really difficult for a lot of people mentally to handle. I mean, you already see just how social media has been affecting mental health. Now imagine technology advancing exponentially, and that's what we're doing. And that's why, you know, Aquarius is a sign of mental health. Mental health practitioners are going to be even more important than ever, because we're going to be dealing with mass mental health issues, you know, as you know, technology is developing at a mind-blowing rate, literally mind-blowing and figuratively. But we're also having, you know, when I talked about revolution, yes, there will be revolution on the lands, but there's also a revolution in consciousness happening as well. We are creating a vision for our world, for the future, a more ideal vision of how to live on the planet that's better for the whole. But again, we have to confront our darkness and our fears and our shadow to get there. We don't just like skip into utopia, you know, no, we have to confront the shadow first. Ultimately, Pluto in Aquarius is more about horizontal structures and Aquarian models of government and Aquarian models of businesses and Aquarian models of housing and living and growing food and all of these things. But again, we have to deal with our shadow to get to this more evolved way of living, because things have gone so far in the other direction of capitalism and greed and power and domination that we need to break down that construct, that way of seeing and living in the world. And change doesn't come easily, but this is what is on the menu for humanity over this next 20-year arc. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a slow-moving process, but we are in it. We are officially beginning it. And what else do I want to say? Remembering ourselves as galactic citizens. Yeah, for humanity to think that we're alone in this universe is a very egotistical way of thinking. And you know, it's going to become known in mainstream society that there are other forms of life that inhabit the galaxy, the universe with us. And that's being introduced already, slowly but surely. You know, Pluto moving into Aquarius is like a strong gust of wind coming in, and that might actually be geologically. We may be seeing huge wind storms this coming week as Pluto enters November 19th, because it's literally and figuratively blowing in the winds of change, you know, and the air signs are wind. Air signs means decentralization of everything. You know, air can't be captured. It can't be centralized. It's very different than the Earth era that we've been living in. So it's going to be decentralized banking, decentralized education, decentralized governments, like all of this kind of stuff. It's like a whole new way of living on the planet that we're going towards. You know, with the air, everything in air, you know, things can spread very quickly. Great ideas as well as bad ideas. But, the other thing about the shadow of Aquarius is possibly, you know, we're in the era of airborne diseases and complications with the air, you know, issues with the air we breathe. Pluto rules pollution. So, you know, we're going to really have to focus on the air, and clean air, and issues like this are going to become imminent for us to deal with. What else did I want to say? Air. And issues with air travel, you know, issues with a lot of turbulence when we're flying, and difficulties with air travel. But also, as a result, we are going to be developing more technologically advanced ways of traveling from the current kind of airplanes and cars that we have, which are also related to the pollution in the air. And so you see how all of this is being addressed together in the Aquarian era. Air, everything related to air is going to completely transform during this time. In the history, late 1700s, the Industrial Revolution, big advancements in science and technology. The writing of the American Constitution happened during the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. So we're coming full circle with that. Is the Constitution going to transform in some way? You know, the splitting of the atom happened the first time Pluto was in, or not the first time, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius. Pluto has been in Aquarius many times. It wasn't discovered until more recently, but it was still there in the blind spot of humanity, but nevertheless there and active. Yeah, I think I talked about the Civil War, the French Revolution, the slave revolt in Haiti, all happened. We're coming full circle on these events. And so again, I want to go back over how it's changing every aspect of the culture, how we eat. We're going to be eating less, more plant-based in terms of sexuality. Different kinds of sexuality are going to become more acceptable. Even asexuality and not having sex at all is going to become more well understood, and we're going to see that on the rise. Aquarius can be a very non-sexual sign, actually. Because it's so mental, it can kind of get removed from the body in certain ways. But yeah, I mean, and even when I talk about the eating thing, I mean, I think when humanity really evolves, we're going to be able to absorb nutrients without even eating, just by like looking at the vegetable. Like, I'm going way out with this, so I'm not going to go very far with that. But there's that might not be until the next 248 years. Let's see. The birth rate may be going down, though, again, because of the transformation in sexuality and in relationships. We're also going to see different kinds of models of marriage, more people marrying for friendship rather than romantic love, because Aquarius is the sign of friends. More group types of relationships like polygamy and models like that becoming more acceptable. And Aquarius a lot of times has to do with the outsiders and the eccentrics. So we might be seeing, models of living or people who are considered eccentric coming more into the center and being seen and more socially acceptable. Money, digital currency, cryptocurrency. I think we're going to see universal basic income coming into play on a more widespread level. Medicine, we're going to be getting into frequency medicine and sound medicine, which is really back to the future of like Egypt and ancient Egypt and times like that. Politics will become more progressive. But again, all of these changes that I'm talking about that are going to happen over the 20-year arc start with demolition and us having to face the shadow before we rebuild to these more ideal Aquarian models. Obviously we've already, in 2020, during, as the Jupiter-Saturn great conjunction in Aquarius was building, and during the pandemic when, Mars was in Aquarius and I think met Saturn in Aquarius at some point along there, we already started seeing the hints of everything going online banking, online education, online grocery shopping, online meetings and online work. That's all very Aquarian. We're doing things in the ether. We're entering the time of the ether more than the time of the physical world. We're going to be seeing in travel major progress in aviation. Driverless cars, but also flying cars. We'll be flying drones to go across town to visit our friends. Commercial space travel, going into outer space, in terms of aging, regenerative medicine, anti-aging medicine. Religion is going to become more decentralized, like everything else is becoming decentralized, more diverse religions. The Aquarian era is not a great time for celebrity or royal. We're going to be seeing the breakdown of celebrity and royal, where we're seeing a lot of the shadow around celebrity culture and the royals, which are ruled by Leo, and the Pluto and Leo generation is kind of dying off during the Aquarius and Pluto generation as they have their Pluto opposition. And gosh, I have 2 living grandmothers, though, who were born during Pluto and Cancer, if you can believe it. One is 92 and one is 102. Anyway, I digress. But let's see. Borders will be changing during the Pluto and Aquarius era, a transformation of our ideas and beliefs and concepts. Oh yeah, with housing will be changing. I think we're going to see more commune living. Also, family compounds are going to become more of a normal way of living. I have a family compound that's here in Los Angeles. I don't live on it, but my family does, and I think that it's a forward model of more that's going to be a more normal, futuristic way of living. I think it's very cozy, if families can get along, that is. There's going to be more of, power to the people, frequency medicine, the post-human era, robots and AI, and the shadow side, surveillance, problems traveling in the air, airborne diseases, issues with air and oxygen, mental health issues, isolation. Aquarius can isolate. Emotional starvation, drop in birth rate, groupthink, the internet pandemic or shutdown. Yeah, these are just some of the ways that the shadow will express. And I think I'm going to wrap up here. This is a long video for me at 35 minutes. I was going to talk about some of the aspects that Aquarius is making, Pluto and Aquarius is making. One of the first aspects is the sextile to Sagittarius Sun on November 21st. This is an opportunity to make your vision for the future, do your vision work, write it down, start reading it every day, because your consciousness will create your reality in the Aquarian era. That's November 21st, the sextile to the Sun in Sagittarius. December 7th is a conjunction to Venus and Pluto, Venus and Aquarius. Maybe I'll just come back and do a separate video on that. On February 3rd, Mars opposing Pluto. We had the first opposition of Mars to Pluto 3 days before the election, November 3rd. Now this time it'll be Mars in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius for part 2 of that Mars-Pluto opposition. I think that we're going to be seeing revolutions beginning probably around the world. On January 21st, right at the inauguration in America, the Sun is conjoining Pluto at 1 degree Aquarius. So this is, a lot to do with the leadership transforming and shifts in power that are taking place in the world. And again, I think that I should come back when these transits are happening, these initial seed planting transits that are happening in the early degrees of Pluto and Aquarius, because I want to keep these videos reasonably short, and I'm already almost at 40 minutes here. And then Mercury joins Pluto January 28th. So I'll come back and talk about these aspects, but I just wanted to come and kind of do the broad strokes. It's a very lofty, it's an intimidating topic, honestly, for me to take on. Pluto's an intimidating guy, he's a powerful guy. Pluto deals with issues of power and domination and the shadow, and but Pluto also has to do with money and wealth. So Pluto going into Aquarius definitely indicates that our whole financial system on the planet is going to transform and change over this 20-year arc. It's not going to be so much a cash-based physical money system anymore. But thank you for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Definitely put in comments any aspects of Pluto that you want me to talk about more. Definitely contact me for a reading, and we can look at where Pluto is moving through your chart. If you have planets in the early degrees of any of the fixed signs, 0 to 3 degrees, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Taurus, you are on the precipice of a majorly transformational moment in your life, a 3-year, very deep, profound transformation that will involve Plutonian topics and the topics of your sign. And so it's a great time to get a reading. In general, for everybody, it's a great time to get a reading, just because we are on the precipice of so much change in the world, and it's going to be affecting all of us as individuals and our families and how we live in the world and things like that. So, you know, I will put a link to book a reading with me in the notes or in the description of this video. And also, we're coming up on the holiday season as I post this video, so it's a great time to you know, buy the gift of a reading for a friend or family member. And I make really cute gift certificates that you can give. And yeah, thank you for joining me. I would love to read for you. I read on Zoom, so I can read for people anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. It is my joy and love to share astrology. So yeah, get in touch with me, and thank you for joining me on this Pluto and Aquarius video. Stay tuned for more videos as the transits unfold, as the world turns. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.